It's the beginning of January, and we have, depending on what state you live in, between 5 and 6 months left of school. And this is a reminder that gun violence happens every day. Last year we had almost double the amount of mass shootings as we had days in the year. It would behoove you to make sure that you speak to your teachers of your children to make sure you know and your children know what the plan is in case of an active shooter. You don't want to be like those parents in Uvalde. Those parents that sat outside and watched and waited in horror as big alpha men with guns were incapable of shooting a mass shooter. I mean, the police didn't go inside. From 1998 till 2020, I did over 40 active shooter drills with children from the ages of 6th grade to 12th grade. And the one thing that I learned by doing that repeatedly is that preparation for an event like that is important. One of the things I did was regularly train and prepare for anything else. The state is always worried about stupid tests. They don't matter for shit. What actually does matter is keeping your children alive. Now, in West Palm Beach, I was given a 2-day seminar on triage. For those of you who do not know what triage is looking at the wounded and determining who you can help first and helping them and leaving those who are more wounded to die because there's less likely of a chance for them to survive. I have 6 credits in science, and it was earth science. I took a class in anatomy and physiology to teach AP psychology. That was in 2003. The state of Florida trusts me to do triage. I have basic rudimentary first aid training that I got in the Boy Scouts, and I've done CPR as a lifeguard when I was in college, but that was 30 years ago. I did save the person's life, and that's fine. But they're expecting teachers to be shot, and then while shot, because by the way, they said, if you're shocky, please try and take care of as many kids as you can before you pass out. So, I'm expendable. Now, in order to prevent myself from expiring prematurely in a classroom, I always had my Bubba Cup. Now, Bubba Cups and cups like this can be stored in a closet. And when we have an active shooter drill, or we have an active shooter for real, there is an email that's sent to teachers, generally speaking, and, PA announcement, we're having a lockdown, kind of thing, and then obviously cellular communication. You can then take the Bubba Cups out of your closet and hand them to the students. And you ask why? Well, if anyone comes in my room with a gun and they get met with that, and I mean children throwing that very hard at someone, it's going to make it very difficult for them to shoot. Now, Bubba is important. Bubba's always on my desk. There's also additional Bubbas in my closet. I have a baseball bat, a catcher's mitt, and a catcher's face mask in my room because I love baseball. That's what you dorn when you go and stand by the door with a bat waiting for the person to come in. Now, ideally, and what I did with middle school kids was I was going to hit the person with the bat and then go for the gun, and kids were going to jump on the bad guy. Now, some of you 2A people say I should shoot the bad guy right in front of the kids. I think they're going to have a traumatic event as it is. I would very much like to take away the firearm, clear the firearm if he's the only assailant, and move along. And I said him because, it's men, and it's usually young men that are white. It's not exclusively young men that are white, but more often than not. So, in my classroom, I would have my students turn their desks on the side. Depending on the structure of the desk, they can help stop bullet fire. In my classroom, again, I will have as many book bags with remaindered books in them as the largest class that I have, and I will have that in the front of the room. And that is for your children to put on their chest because 3 or 4 inches of books can stop 5.56 rounds. The density of paper. And I'm going to wrap them up so they're solid and it's in front of your child to help. And then I'm at the door, waiting to take on the bad guy. That's the reality of education. The far right is constantly saying, oh, they're pushing the rainbow agenda. Motherfucker, we didn't have time. In 6th grade, world history, you have to cover 16 major civilizations, according to Sunshine State Standards. I didn't have time to do anything but that. I didn't have time to get on my soapbox and preach to them, and plus they're 12. They don't need to hear from an adult on a soapbox. My students were constantly concerned about getting shot. When I was teaching in the year 2000, Barry Bruno was killed in West Palm Beach by Nathaniel Brazil on the last day of school. The commentator on the news said it was only a teacher who was shot. Even after 20 years, that still fucking hurts. We are deemed to be expendable while providing some of the most important education your child is going to receive. Please make sure that you are aware of the plans in your child's classroom. If you have children below 6th grade, the elementary school classes generally are with one teacher. That's much easier to figure out. If your children are in middle school or high school, that generally means a rotating or moving schedule, anywhere from 4 to 8 periods, depending on the school, which means you have anywhere from 4 to 8 different plans that your child needs to know to keep your child optimally safe if Uvalde happens. I live in a state where it's open carry, Florida. You know, we got the national mascot, the moron with the flag in the middle of the hurricane. That's my state. There are guns aplenty. And while watching the drop-off in middle school, I have seen plenty of parents get into fender benders and then start hitting each other. Well, you've added guns to the equation too. So how often are these stupid little fender benders and things like that, when you have a weapon, you know what? I can solve the problem this way. And that's what we're dealing with. And don't ask us to fucking have a gun. I don't want a gun in classroom. Because here's the thing. The walls of my classroom in Roosevelt Middle School were made of particle board and wood, because it was built prior to 1995. So there was no, Hurricane Andrew standards. Particle board. How fast do you think a round is going to go through particle board? So if you hit the bad guy and the round goes through, which happens more often than not, the round can continue to go through and hit a child in the next classroom, or hit a teacher, or ricochet. Oh, by the way, we're also going to be massively fucking concerned about hitting the kids in our classroom. So that's who you want having a gun. I am so tired of this nonsense. Please, for the love of God, make sure you are aware of your children's plans for their defense in an active shooter. Please vote true and vote blue so we can get rid of some of these repugnant people and their gun laws that are killing our children and killing our teachers.